Welcome to another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. Today, our episode is Academics is Not All School Should Be About. We talk with Patrick Paxon from UCSD ROBOSUB team. Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Success Innovation. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for those who continue to being loyal listeners and viewers. This is a video, and we also have the podcast for Success Innovation. Today, I'm really excited because we are at UCSD, University of California in San Diego. It's my alma mater, and we're with a special guest here, and it's Mr. Paxon here. He is a third year, but it's a complicated story at UCSD, the School of Engineering. And hello, Patrick.
Hey,
thank you for agreeing to do this interview with me here.
Absolutely.
Would you share your story about how you came to UCSD and what you're actually studying, what your majors are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out actually by transferring to UCSD. After my junior year of high school, I realized that I exhausted all the advanced placement classes that I could actually take at that particular school. I was able to start in freshman year with like AP Calculus and Chemistry, and I completed maybe like 10 AP classes or so in the course of my 3 years in high school, and realized that there was nothing else for me to really do in my senior year. So what I decided to do was go to community college for a year and then transfer. I had enough credits from my AP classes to be able to complete an I-Get-C in 1 year rather than the normal 2.
So you actually came as a second, third year into UCSD?
Into UCSD, I was actually senior, according to like the standing and the amount of units I completed.
Okay, as far as unit-wise goes, you were considered a senior.
Yeah.
But coursework and classes, you were
closer to a junior. And then at the end of my first year, I added a second major, so I got accepted into the program for computer science.
So you're into computer science and also the cognitive science major? So it's a double major. It's not a major and a minor. It's a double major.
I actually, I have my 2 majors in computer science and cognitive science, and a minoring in biology and music.
So it's 3 things. So it's
4.
4. Computer science, cognitive science, music, and what else?
Biology.
Biology. Yep. Oh, wow. Okay. Great. So he's a local San Diegan. And you live in Rancho Peñasquitos, you said?
That's where my family lives. I currently live a little bit off campus in an apartment.
All right. So thank you for that explanation. And how difficult, because you juggled a lot being in high school. So I'm going to go back to those early years.
Sure.
How did you decide to pursue so many advanced classes? Is that normal for kids your age to actually do that?
Yeah, it was sort of the culture for like the smart kids at my high school.
In the school that you're going, that's more or less the trend.
Yeah, well, there were sort of 2 different paths that you could go. You could do like kind of the normal high school route, or you could do the smart kid route where you do like at least 2 AP classes in your freshman year, going on to like 4 to 5 the rest of your years. Really trying to stack it up and get ahead in college and whatnot. And so it was honestly pretty exhausting to be able to like have that amount of academic pressure in high school.
Yeah.
And so I definitely struggled a little bit. My sophomore year, I actually had to drop out of Calculus BC or Calc 2 because I just couldn't handle it. I had I think physics and biology, and
they were all AP classes.
And statistics.
They were all AP
classes.
All AP,
on top
not
of
regular physics, not regular AP physics, AP biology, AP calculus.
Right. And what the school did was they condensed Calculus BC into essentially 1 quarter. And it's not like the quarter system at UCSD where there's 3 quarters in a year.
Yeah.
They had 4 quarters in a year. And so it was really like 8 weeks of content, and then the AP test hits.
Oh, wow.
And so
it's really fast-paced.
Yeah, it was incredibly fast-paced. I didn't have the greatest foundation of calc from my first year. And so going back and having to memorize a lot of this stuff and then have to memorize a ton of new content really just got to me on top of the massive course load that I already had.
Okay.
So it's definitely a learning experience.
Though. Of course, yeah. And it's definitely very interesting because you decided to take a different route than most high school students tend to do, because most high school students tend not to really focus and know what they want to achieve or what their goals are, and they kind of haphazardly just go through the motions in high school.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is like parent driven, and so
Right. So your parents were, they were laying a path for you. They kind of gave you a leeway of this is what we want you to achieve, but they weren't necessarily on top of you focusing on you have to do this exactly at this time.
I think my parents were a lot more flexible than some of my friends in high school and all that. Like some of my friends' parents very much pushed them to like, you do all these classes, you have to get a 4.0 GPA. This is how you get into MIT. Like, if you don't get less than an Ivy League school, you're disowned.
Really?
Not literally disowned, but like you disappoint your parents if you don't go to like an Ivy League school.
Oh wow!
And so when there's like 40 kids in the school all trying to pursue this path of 4.0 GPA, as many AP classes as possible, it ends up like you're gonna be maybe the top person in another school that's less competitive.
Okay.
But when you're stacked up against all of these other people, you feel like you're nothing, right?
Wow.
Because you're never going to be as good as the top guy.
So you're always comparing yourself to the other students in
it was
class,
always a competition in high school, and that really it drove me nuts because that shouldn't be what education is about.
So let me kind of dig into this a little more.
Sure.
So now that you can look back in retrospect, what would you do different for yourself?
I just take classes that I'm interested in. I wouldn't push myself to do like, AP chemistry and AP physics and stuff because I'm not good at physics or chemistry really. I would have maybe done the normal one, and then if I felt comfortable with it or like the material, taken the AP course and stuff like that, and just doing less. Or not even necessarily doing less, but just not making my life about grades.
Right.
Because there's a lot of other stuff that I could have been exploring that I sort of stopped doing. Like in middle school, I was doing like math competitions and robotics and like science Olympiad and stuff like that.
Did you enjoy that?
And I did. And as school got harder in high school, I had to stop doing these extracurricular activities. And so by the end of my junior year, I was really only involved with water polo at the beginning of the year, and then just finishing my classes.
Oh wow!
And so I was looking at it like, not only do I not have any more classes that I really want to take, but it's like I'm not involved in anything because school has dominated my life.
Okay.
So that definitely factored into my decision to go to community college for a year instead.
Okay. So let's. Good thing that you bring that up. Community college, was that something that you're not a transfer student? You're a direct.
I am a test.
You are in essence a transfer student.
I'm considered a transfer student
because you went to community college. You took a year of community college, but you did it when you were in high school.
I did it instead of my senior year of high school. So I actually
skipped the senior year.
Yeah. So I just took like I don't recall the name off the top of my head, but it's essentially just a test you take, and then it's equivalent to your diploma.
GRE.
Yeah.
The GRE.
Sort of. It's essentially that you get what is equivalent to your high school diploma, and then you can go off to college.
Did you do that when you were a junior?
At the end of my junior year, yes.
At the end of your junior year, you decided to take and skip the senior year by taking this test, and you essentially enrolled into a community college, and you did a transfer to UCSD.
Yep.
Oh, wow. How old were you at that time?
17?
16.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I just turned 19 like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, but you've been at UCSD for 2 years?
Yeah, this is my second year.
This is your second year. Okay. So you come into UCSD. It's a wonderful experience, great university. What made you decide for UCSD?
I think it's just like the academic prestige, and also the fact that I'm in the neighborhood of like San Diego and whatnot, but I don't necessarily have to be at home. It's about a 20-minute drive from UCSD to my house. Okay. So I was comfortably far enough from my parents to like be excited about college and the college life and whatnot, but close enough that I can get my laundry done on the weekends.
Okay, all right. So now that you're more independent, let's say that way, what have been the pros and cons for moving out of home and being a college, more independent adult?
I've absolutely loved it. I mean,
you have,
yeah. Being independent is something that I've always kind of wanted to do. Is even in high school, it's like, I want to sort of do my own thing rather than, excuse me, rather than having to follow the path of everyone else, right?
Right.
And so it's been really nice, like living in my own apartment. I get to make the rules and take care of myself.
Okay.
Essentially create the apartment and how I want it to look like. And
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
If you want to, put some stereo in a certain location, you can do that because it's your own environment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about this little baby.
Sure.
So it's a ROBOSUB, right? It's
Yeah.
a sub. It's a UAV.
Yeah.
Remotely operated underwater vehicle, right?
An autonomous underwater vehicle. It's it's not controlled on land.
It's not controlled.
Yeah.
Okay, it's totally programmed, and it's not AI. It's programmed, right?
We do use machine learning as a component in our decision-making algorithms and stuff like that.
All right. How did you? Because you're the founder of this team. When you first started, how was that process? How did you get the idea? What happened?
So, kind of going back to high school again, as part of the I got to do everything to get into MIT or whatever path, I did this college competition called ROBOSUB with a couple of friends and acquaintances from the area. So basically it was a couple of mechanical engineers, a couple of software guys, and we got together and entered this competition. It's an international competition hosted in San Diego in Point Loma. There's a gigantic military pool.
Right.
And so the goal of the competition is to build an AUV, autonomous underwater vehicle, that's able to accomplish a series of missions. And so I did that for the first couple years of high school. I stopped when I started going to community college, but that was really, it was the next level of robotics for me because I had done robotics in elementary school and middle school.
So you did FLL, VEX, and...
I didn't do VEX. I did FLL and FTC. And instead of FRC, I did ROBOSUB.
Okay.
And it was definitely a big step up from either of those two competitions because number one, you don't have the advantages afforded by manual control.
Right.
And then the other huge problem is the fact that it's all underwater.
Right.
So waterproofing electronics is quite difficult.
Okay. All right. So you had some experience with that competition. You get to UCSD. How do you go about forming the team?
Actually, before I came and officially enrolled in UCSD, my dad, who's also a software developer, went to a couple of local robotics meetups and met a professor who teaches here, and that professor had been interested in starting a ROBOSUB team, and so my dad put me in contact with him. And so...
Is it Dan Hendricks?
No, it's Jack Silverman.
Okay, Jack Silverman.
So we worked with Dr. Silverman for the first 2 quarters, and in those first 2 quarters, I was mostly working on just trying to recruit people, creating flyers, hosting GBMs, and sort of trying to figure out how the hell we were going to build one of these things.
Right. So this was all you, all legwork, all thinking how to make it happen, how to assemble everybody, getting a meeting gathered together just to, convene with a team and gather team members that are interested.
Yeah. Okay. And that was kind of a struggle just because one of the disadvantages of starting a club as a new student is that you don't get to do the pre-fall events and stuff like that. So there's an event called Engineering on the Green, which is hosted in the first week of school. And if you're not a registered org, you can't really sign up for it. There's a lot of resources that orgs take advantage of in the first couple of weeks that we couldn't because we didn't get approved as an org until late October.
Right.
And so we missed out on the crucial month of recruiting at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And so kind of starting from when we got approved, that was when we could actually plan events and host them and whatnot. So starting the club, I got all my roommates together and then I got my RA actually just so they could put their names down on the form so that we could get approved. Just so that we could book
just
rooms
to have
a
slots of people in the minimum requirements that you
Right.
needed to meet.
Right.
Okay, interesting. Okay, very
Every
good.
single one of them actually ended up
Participants?
dropping out.
They dropped out.
Yeah,
Okay.
eventually.
So it was just you, essentially, just you as a team member working on the sub for a while.
Well, no, they dropped out sort of incrementally. My RA never really got involved. She just put her name down.
Okay, just
which was
to
nice.
allow you
Because
to
you
get
have
the
to take
team
like a
going.
3-hour diversity class in order to like be able to be a board member essentially for school orgs. And so
as they were dropping out, were you subbing people in? Were more people
they didn't
interested?
really drop out until like the end of winter.
Okay.
But they were definitely very influential in helping me like get everything together, be able to make flyers and plan events and get people interested in the club. And so by the time they sort of were like, I'm done. This is getting to be too much. We had enough people that we could sort of continue.
Okay, all right. So that was one of the big obstacles that you had to overcome, right?
Yeah.
How did you deal with that emotionally? Because you obviously wanted this to happen.
Yeah.
And you were seeing that people are like not necessarily believing in your idea.
I think from the get-go, people believed in it because it's the competition. There's a weight of like Titan schools like Cornell and stuff who go to this competition for years and years. And so all of those resources and those research papers and stuff are available online. So there is that like wealth of knowledge and past competitions that sort of lended legitimacy to the club. I think the biggest challenge that we had was we had a lot of conflicts with our mentor, the professor that we met over the summer.
Silverman?
Yeah. Just because he wanted to take the club in a different direction than the members wanted.
I see.
And that I wanted. So he was asking us to like partner with a private team in our first year and essentially build the robot for them and then teach them how to build it.
Interesting. That's not what you wanted.
That's not what
you
we wanted to
the
do.
Robot to be yours.
Right. We wanted it to be our own. We didn't even. Pretty much everyone on the team besides me had no robotics experience. So it's like we didn't. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't build a robot and then teach them how. There were a few other like managerial conflicts and stuff like that, and sort of the cherry on top was that at the end of winter quarter, the professor lost his lab space, and so we were out of a lab.
So now you had to, ask for another lab, see if another professor or another entity within the university would allow you to use a lab space. So how do we end up in this lab space?
Yeah. So in the middle of winter quarter, we sort of got to the point where the professor said, "Okay, I'm going to get you this stock robot. It's supposed to be manual controlled from the surface. I'm going to get this for you, and then you're going to make it autonomous. And if you don't do what I say, I'm going to take that robot back."
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because there was a lot of
there was a lot of tension between us. So
were you the one doing the conversation, mediation, and reconciliation, or was there a group of you team members, or was it just
I talked
you alone
for hours and hours to my roommates about all of these decisions, and I felt like this was sort of the only way forward because, we were essentially being handed $5,000, which is huge,
right? Yeah, it's a lot of money,
and
you got to.
He does have expertise and stuff. He knows what he's doing, but I think what ended up kind of leading us away from him was the personality conflicts. Like we didn't really like his style and his conduct when talking to us. Like I think some of the newer members had never even met him in person because he would always call in and sort of like he would only want to talk to the the team leads. And keep in mind this was like 8 people,
right?
And so the team leads is half of the team. But he only wanted to talk to the team leads, and everyone else needed to be quiet essentially and just listen.
So
stuff like that. So like the team didn't really like, they weren't fans.
Right.
And then also like he was kind of pushing us more and more towards we're under his thumb entirely and we don't get to make any decisions.
So you felt really frustrated.
Yeah, so it was incredibly frustrating. Okay.
So at an early age, I mean, you're learning how to cope and how to talk and how to, reconciliate some differences between academics and students and how to run a team and how to go ahead and get a product going. So there's a lot going on, but you're also juggling classes in school. It's not just like this is your main focus. And everybody else in the team is also doing the same thing. So some of them
I think honestly that was what hurt me the most was I wasn't putting enough time into the project and really like it definitely picked up in the spring quarter after we moved labs. What ended up happening was the robot that he lended to us didn't actually belong to him. It belonged to another professor.
It was a loan.
It was a loan from another professor. And then, so basically we talked to the professor who actually bought the robot and everything. And he was like, oh, you guys are out of lab space. Why don't you keep the robot, come to my lab, which is this space. This is the Kastner Research Group, and Ryan Kastner is our current advisor. So he really like saved us. It was definitely a hectic finals week for winter quarter because all of this sort of happened at once. Like we were trying to apply for a $5,000 grant from the school, and so I had to go and get a new professor to sign for it. And then after finals week over spring break, I met with Dr. Kastner.
Was it through the TESC organization?
No, we're not affiliated with TESC as of right now.
All right, so you're not registered with them, or you're just not affiliated?
We're not affiliated with them. We're trying to be right now. We're like probationary members, but right now we're independent. So this was sort of just me running around and talking to as many people as possible. We ended up getting that $5,000 grant. Some random professor was kind enough to sign the piece of paper that we needed, and then we got approved for it. And then Dr. Kastner was incredibly generous and allowed us to continue using the robot and allowed us to use his lab space. And the best part about the lab space is the mentors. All right. We have a couple of mentors. Actually, one of them
grad
recently.
Students or professors?
So one person,
Who are your
Eric
mentors?
Lowe, is our research director. He's like the tier below Dr. Kastner, who is like the manager of the lab. So. Eric is in here all the time and he's offering us advice. And then the other person who helped us a great deal was Nathan Hui, who he graduated in the summer with his master's degree in electrical engineering. And as of last month, we helped him get a job at Teledyne Marine.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
So like through the connections we made at the competition, we were able to sort of pay him back a little bit by getting his foot in the door with Teledyne Marine, which is one of the big marine electronics manufacturing companies in the world.
So is this robot here the one that competed in the last?
So right now...
So this is your first... I mean, obviously it's not your first robot, but what iteration?
It actually is our first robot.
Oh, it's your first robot.
Everything below the top chamber here is just like that stock robot that we started with that belonged to Dr. Kastner. We took out some components in the middle chamber, added this top chamber in order to actually do our like autonomy, and sort of went from there.
So I read one of the articles that you guys have in one of your websites, and it said that during the competition you were still trying to achieve the autonomous portion, just trying to get through the gate. So can you kind of explain and run through what was going through your mind the night before the competition?
The competition is actually a week long, so it was really like a fever dream for the whole week. We didn't have it as bad as some of the other teams. Like Caltech was a couple booths away from us. I talked to some of their members throughout the competition. They essentially were up 24/7 trying to make their robot work.
Really?
Because everything that could have went wrong with them did.
Oh, wow. Like, was it leaking? Everything was not working?
There's a thing called a Doppler velocity log, which gives like incredibly accurate heading reading, and it's essentially local positioning underwater, where signals like GPS don't work underwater, so you need a DVL. Their 40-year-old DVL ended up breaking, and the part of their DVL that broke also broke their camera because it like came loose and then got in front of their camera and damaged the camera. And then they also had like leakage issues and stuff like that, but they were really relying on the DVL to run to do everything mission. Because it's their local positioning. It's like how they know where they are in the water.
Right. Is there a positioning system?
Yeah. And so once that went down, it was sort of like they just were scrambling to try and fix it. Wow. For the entire competition.
So what was your major obstacle during that competition?
Our major obstacle was that we trained a neural network to identify the gate, which is like the first objective. You just have to go 10 meters from a dock through like a 10-foot PVC gate.
Okay, and you have to keep the same elevation. And obviously, the gate's not.
Yeah, you can't
10
like
meters
go
by 10 meters.
You can't go over the gate or anything, but you can. You just have to like go through the poles essentially, which are. They're about this big.
3 feet? About 3 feet.
I think they're bigger than that.
Okay.
Closer to like 5. It's definitely a large gate, but the issue is that we trained our neural network in order to identify it underwater. But instead of drawing boxes around the individual poles on the gate, we just drew a box around the entire gate. And so because most of the gate is filled with water, because it's just a PVC pipe, essentially.
Exactly.
It identified everything as a gate. And so we had to completely scrap that. Because as soon as we put it down in the competition, it did not work at all.
So the first day, you figured that was not.
The first day, we put it in the water, we tried running it, it didn't work. And then at the end of the first day, our flight controller fried.
Oh. So what did you do at that point?
So we came back to the lab like in a panic.
This lab?
This lab.
Okay.
Because this is where like all of our tools and stuff are.
So the day competition's over like 5, 6 p.m. And you don't go home and rest.
No. We got up at 6 a.m. to go to the competition.
I'm just trying to paint a picture for the audience to see what dedication is.
Yeah.
Because this is something when you're gearing up to prepare for the competition, you put in the time. Yeah. But you still have that leeway of saying, well, today we're not going to do something and let's schedule it for another day. But when you're in competition mode. So you go in, you do the competition, something goes wrong, you don't just pack up and go home and go in the next morning. It's not like a 9-to-5 job. Yeah. You're there 24/7 essentially. Yeah. And so you come back at 6 p.m., you come here and you disassemble and look at whatever you need.
Yeah, so we basically we had to get up at like 5:36 a.m. in order to get to the competition right when it started. And then at the end of the day, at 6 p.m., it just died in the water. We had no idea what went wrong, but it just stopped moving. Everything, stuff turned off, and we had no idea what went wrong. We didn't know whether it was a leak. We didn't know what happened to it. And so we were like, this is a problem.
Right.
So we packed up everything as fast as we could. We went back to the lab. I had to talk to someone who was thankfully in the lab to talk to our mentor Nathan, who came in, at 7 to help us identify what went wrong.
7 p.m.
Yeah, because none of our team last year were electrical engineers.
Okay.
And so one of the electronics died. We knew that.
Right.
But we had no idea how to diagnose it because we didn't have any electrical engineers. We sort of scraped by with help from our mentors, and because most of the electronics were done for us by the company that sells this base ROV.
Right.
So a lot of our focus was on software. And so when the electronics died, he came in and spent 2 hours helping us. And I think we wrapped up at like 9 or 10 p.m.
And he figured out he was able to troubleshoot the problem?
Yeah, we were able to help him disassemble it. And it was pretty obvious. I mean, one of the ground wires was fried, and that led to our flight controller.
Okay.
And so we identified it pretty quickly and then spent the rest of that time trying to fix it. It turns out that there are 2 other power sources for the flight controller, and so it's able to turn on, but because there was such a surge, we fried some of the connectivity. So the flight controller isn't in 100% working condition.
Okay.
We initially thought it wasn't working at all.
Okay.
But very late that night, we realized that after like 15 seconds, it's able to actually connect to our computers, and basically that connection is from the motors to the computers, right? And so that used to take less than a second. Now it takes 15 seconds. And so we decided, if this breaks anymore, we need a replacement. And so we had our hardware lead drive like 2 hours to a small shop that sold more flight controllers. We had him do that first thing the next morning as we were at the competition all day trying to make what we had work.
Right.
So
that's teamwork. Somebody was assigned to go ahead, and that was their task for the day.
Yeah.
To go in and get additional parts for replacement.
Just in case. And we ended up not replacing it because there are some firmware issues and stuff like that. But that affected us for the rest of the competition because we only get half-hour slots for the pool. Right. And so every single time we want to rerun the program, we have to wait 15 seconds, 15 extra seconds. Right. And so that started adding up as we did, 10 runs in the space of that half hour.
Right. You're racking up more like 10 minutes or something like that.
It was really like, it did affect us for the rest of the competition, but we really focused on the software. Our software team lead and our other like software member really, they did not sleep for a week. Essentially, like
maybe we did a power nap
one of the nights we spent, I think we stayed up until like 3 a.m. 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning training a neural network to identify the next mission, because we had gotten the gate down by about halfway through the competition, a little less than halfway through the competition. So we wanted to try and get more points and try and get into finals. Essentially just trying our best to do as much as we can while we were there. Like, we didn't necessarily have to, because we did what we set out to do. We got through the gate.
Right.
But
that was your main goal.
That was our goal.
Get through the gate.
Yeah.
That was it.
But I was pushing the team
to do a little more.
To do more, because this was our only chance for the year.
Right.
We have to wait a whole other year before we can go back and do it again.
So it's a 1 year, one-time competition at the year. When is the competition?
It's in like late July, early August.
Late July. So are you now gearing up for the competition next year?
Yes, we are.
So from last year, what is the biggest lesson you've learned that you're implementing now? If there's anything that you can share.
I think the really big thing is that we just got super inspired.
Okay.
Like,
super inspired by the competition
and the people,
the whole vibe,
everything, because it was like a robotics utopia.
Okay.
Like, there are teams. There are teams from around the world. Sitting at these booths that you can go talk to at any time during the competition, all doing that same grind that we were doing. Okay. But to even bigger extremes.
So
I talked about Caltech.
You could relate to them really well. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and it was just the energy. Like, talking to the other people from other teams, listening to their problems and how they overcame them and what they're facing now and how they're working on it. Like, there is a guy in the booth next to us who was the only representative from the school, because the two other people that were supposed to come with him
didn't show up,
had problems. Like, one of them had like a family emergency. I don't quite remember what happened to the other person, but like, he was the only person from his school there.
Okay.
He flew from Maryland to San Diego for a week. And for that entire week, the only thing he did was try and make his robot work. Oh, because he essentially brought it in parts. Right. Because it was completely disassembled, not water tested even. And so he built the robot in a week, grinding 24/7.
Oh, geez. Oh,
we brought him to our lab one night so that he could have access to some of the tools that we have.
So you essentially collaborated with him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool.
There's a great sense of collaboration from, like, we wouldn't have been able to train our neural network without help from other teams. Like, they provided a ton of very, very useful data for us that we were able to turn into something that sort of worked.
Okay.
We had some other issues that ended up, we couldn't complete the buoys mission, but we tried, and the neural network at least sort of worked.
Okay.
But yeah, sort of this guy, like, we brought him to our lab at 6 p.m. And we hung out for a little bit, ordered pizza. He talked to our mentors.
Right.
And we came back in the morning to get our robot, and he was still here.
Working on his robot?
Yeah, he just stayed up all night to work on his robot, and then we brought him back to the competition, and he just kept working. He didn't stop. Even during finals, he was still working on his robot, trying to water test it and try and get something working. Like that level of dedication is really like what got us excited. And so going into the new year, not only were we super excited off of the heels of the competition, you know, after we'd slept a little bit.
Right. After ingested it, processed it, and you said, this is really cool. I really enjoyed it. Right, okay.
As a side note, the competition also offers like tech talks from the company sponsors and like and some of the more advanced teams. So like we were able to attend those as well and learn a lot during the competition, which was really cool. But after the competition, going into the new year, we were super pumped. And so we were able to also take advantage of those, like that first month of recruiting that I talked about earlier, because we were now established. And so we got special permission from the school and the Idea Center in Tesk to bring a 10-foot pool to Engineering on the Green this year.
Okay. So
it's actually that pool over there. Oh, wow. It's just like a kiddie pool, but
yes.
But you know, getting the water was the biggest challenge, and like we were able to get that together and actually show students our robot moving through the water this year. And so we got 100 applicants.
For the team.
Whereas this year. Last year we got 10. And I accepted everyone. And this year we had 100 applicants.
More selective. Okay.
Yeah.
You can have
and so we like tripled our team size this year. We have a ton of really, really smart people, and we actually have some electrical engineers this time, which is lovely.
So you're gonna do mechanical, electrical, computer, and hardware, and you're gonna have a whole array of different disciplines to be able to compensate for whatever you were missing.
So right now we're wrapping up kind of designing our robot for this year. We're going to completely scrap this, take it apart.
Are you going to be able to reuse some of the components?
Yeah, we're gonna reuse things like the motors, which are quite expensive, and like our flight controller, we're probably going to use the new one that we still have. Because we think the system is pretty good. We just want to improve the boards. We want to improve the space efficiency, because like a lot of this third chamber isn't being used. Being able to have a more hydrodynamic robot that's able to do more things.
You do still have some empty space that is not fully utilized.
And we also want to attempt all of the missions this year, and so that requires having more hardware like a grabber and a torpedo launcher.
So you, as a team member and leader, gained a lot of recognition by some other academics in this location that they're saying, hey, you know, they're for real. They're not just, you know, playing around.
Yeah, and so at the competition, we were also able to talk to some of the companies that came and sent representatives to go check out these teams. And because we're a local team, and because a lot of the companies that sponsored the competition are based in San Diego.
You got a lot of pull on that.
Yeah, and so we had a couple of tours. We had like a tour of Brain Corp this fall, and Teledyne Marine. And we also have a tour of the Naval Information Warfare Center coming up in January. And so we're able to take our team, we're able to take these new members who signed up for this hands-on engineering experience, and right off the bat, we were able to take them and show them these companies,
Right, of course,
and
So, you already have it, you have the background, you have the expertise on it. So let me ask you, so now that you are going through with this, and you, Patrick, are in the second year of a competition coming up, obviously that's what you're focusing on, but let's say maybe a year down the road, what are your plans as Patrick, the engineer in the cognitive science and music and biology minors?
I'm gonna be finishing up my last year and then starting my master's program. I'm hoping to finish my
master's in?
In computer science.
Computer science,
I'm hoping to finish up my master's by 2022.
2022. Is there any particular company that you're targeting, or?
I entered at Qualcomm last summer, and I'm going back again this summer.
You interned at Qualcomm. And you're already going back to them. Cool.
So Qualcomm has a ton of different departments, and so I'm looking to explore something
So ultimately, you would love to work with them?
I'm not really sure beyond my master's degree right now.
Okay.
I'm considering doing research or maybe a PhD or teaching or something like that. There's a lot of different things that I have in mind.
And that you could definitely do and pursue.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of potential.
Yeah.
You have a lot of potential. So for those that are listening out there, you know, Patrick here, he's wide open for opportunities. So help him out. If you could tell us, do you have any superpowers? If you could share with us, what superpower do you consider you have?
I'm able to pick up things really quickly. I think that's the biggest thing that's been helping me out as I'm doing all of this stuff. Like, I don't think anything I've done would be possible if I wasn't able to like learn things quickly and internalize stuff. Like I did 8 classes this quarter or fall quarter in addition to managing ROBOSUB and managing all these new members and stuff like that. And so
8 classes?
Yeah,
8 classes.
28 units.
Wow. Okay.
Which is like 6 above the unit cap.
Right. Did you have to have special permission for that? Or?
Yeah,
yes.
I had to like apply to make them let me do it.
Was that a conversation with the dean of
No,
engineering?
it was just
the department?
It was all automated.
Okay.
Like I submit a request and someone approves it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, definitely that was a challenge, and I think just being able to think quickly.
Okay. So being able to think quickly and understand things and apply them in a good method. Okay.
Yeah. And I think knowing what I want is maybe the other thing. Like, as far as ROBOSUB goes, I have a pretty clear vision of where I want this to go. I want to start taking on more real world projects. We're actually going to get a design project from the Navy when we go tour their base. Okay. I'm hoping to do more projects like that and do real world deployments where we build an AUV for like the Scripps Institution of Oceanography or a company that maybe wants to explore the ocean in some way. Right. Just doing more stuff that relates to the real world, kind of breaking out of the bubble of the competition, because there's only so much you can do in a pool.
Of course. I mean, it's
we actually talked to a lady who developed this see-through algorithm. You may have seen it on the news or something like that, but basically this algorithm is able to remove the blue tint from water. And so we had a video call with her for like an hour, and one of the sort of side things that we're doing this year is we're going to try and take that algorithm and make it real time. Okay. Because one of the big barriers that she was running into is like it takes 15 minutes per image, and so if you want to have a real-time camera feed, it's not really feasible right now. So kind of having a more efficient estimation process for estimating the distance between objects and stuff like that, and having more efficient processing of the image.
So you're essentially collaborating with other individuals that are working
and she's like a professional oceanographer and researcher and stuff like that. So it's like being able to just do more things in the real world. Right.
That's what you're pursuing. That's what you want.
That's what I'm trying to do and trying to push this.
So do you envision yourself actually being more or less a CEO of a company that?
Oh yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
That's for sure.
I mean, this is a company essentially.
Yes.
We're nonprofit and all that, but
but essentially you can do some great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let me ask you another question. So let's say, you could go back and, I mean, we have a sub here, but let's say you have a sub or a machine that you could go back in time. You're, essentially 19 right now?
Yeah.
Let's say you could go back to 10-year-old Patrick. What would you say to the 10-year-old Patrick? What advice, if you could spend about 5 minutes and you could share with him about 2 or 3 key point lessons that you've gained so far, that you could share back and say, hey, Patrick, this is going to really help you, and you're going to do great things if you follow this advice?
I'd tell myself to keep playing piano.
Keep playing piano?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd tell myself to just internalize the difference between what my mom is asking me to do and what I want, right? Okay. And saying that it's okay to want the same thing that my mom is pushing me towards. Okay. Because I think when I was younger, I didn't really, I wanted to be rebellious or whatever.
Right.
And sort of like, I don't want to do math and robotics and all this. I want to play video games all day.
Right.
And I think I maybe could have done even more if I had worked harder when I was younger and keeping up with this and just learning as much as I can. My brother has like a great passion for electronics and mechanical engineering. And so I think if I had more like passion when I was younger, maybe, or just wanting it for myself more, then I think.
But as it
could have been
is,
different.
I want to acknowledge you. You've achieved quite a lot.
Yeah.
You've achieved quite so many things, more than other students that have actually, have the passion and drive to actually do it. But you've
I think
done a lot.
It's really just like once I was in community college and I had to decide things for myself, because my parents sort of, as soon as I started taking community college classes, they were very hands-off about my coursework and all that. And so once it was like, I had to decide for myself what I wanted to do and what I wanted to pursue, I looked back and at all these experiences I had and was like, why don't I keep doing this? This was awesome.
Right. I mean, that's a question that only you can answer. Why didn't you keep doing this? One last question. What is your definition of success? Right now. It could change, but right now, what is your definition of success?
I think enjoying what you're doing, but also, having a job having something that you enjoy that also makes enough money for you to live comfortably.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for watching another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. We have Patrick Paxon. Thank you so much for being in this episode.
Absolutely.
And I wish you the best building on in this ROBOSUB. And if you ever need any help, let me know, and I'll definitely try to assist you.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for sticking with me with another episode of Success Innovation. As you can see, the story of Patrick Paxon is a very impactful one from UCSD. Patrick shared some interesting insight as to how he arrived at UCSD and what he went through, what obstacles, and how he was able to overcome them. I encourage you to connect with Patrick Paxon via LinkedIn and or go check out the UCSD ROBOSUB website. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Signing out, Lázaro Herrera from Success Innovation. See you next time.